Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about top 10 lists. This is going to be top 10 one drops. So we're going to be looking at these top 10 one drops in pretty much every format. So we got constructed formats like standard, modern, legacy, all this other stuff, vintage of course. We're going to be looking at limited formats where applicable. Not doesn't really not really any of the cards appearing on this list today. Obviously, one drops aren't typically that great in limited. And then can be looking at Commander too, stuff like Cube or whatever a little bit, although that kind of goes with like limited as well in some respects. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be looking at cards like how powerful they are now, how powerful they are in the past. Like historical dominance, of course, would be pretty important. Their ability to like either get worse and or better as time goes by, that kind of thing. So a lot of different factors, like how broken they are, how ubiquitous they are, things like that. Sometimes both in some cases. And I'm gonna be doing this for probably about up to like one drops, two drops, three drops, four drops, five drops, and six drops. I think anything after that, there's not enough good creatures, but I'll take a look at like maybe seven or eight drops, see if there's anything there that's interesting. Seven drops would be probably the last one. I mean, eight drops would just be like Gristlebrand and every other poor bastard that's cost eight mana. Um, Maybe there's a little bit more there. I'll have to look, but yeah, that wouldn't be much of a flying Gristle. Jesus Christ, like what a ridiculous card. I'm kind of glad it exists in a way, and then also not in a way, but I guess that's a conversation for a different time. Today we are talking about one drops, the best one drops in Magic, the ones that do awesome stuff, not awesome stuff. So this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. I got some nice tequila. Everyone likes tequila. That's right. So good stuff. Okay. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's look at what I think is the best one drops in all the magical lands overall, in the past, in the future, in the present. Let's go. Okay, a little bit of a fake out, a little bit of cock tease. We got honorable mentions. I just realized that most of these cards are goblins and they're red, which is weird a little bit. There's actually quite a few really good one drops, but it's like, man, it's tough. It's tough. It's definitely tough. I think a lot of these cards are kind of like pretty close in power level, so a lot. I mean, these top 10 lists are very subjective for these kind of things, so we don't really have like objective measures. I mean, you have like number of top eights, but that's biased towards standard stuff and things like that. So it's like, okay, that's too much of a pain, too much work. I'm gonna do it with my own informal, incredible powers. So let's look at this first guy. We got Grim Lavamancer. This card was sweet when it came out. I really liked it. I mean, it just turns all your extra like old burn spells into damage, which is awesome. It's seen a ton of play. Pretty much is only going to get better the more graveyard stuff they print, which is again some of the more powerful sets. So there's always new cards, synergistic stuff being added, more self-milling or any of that kind of crap. Stuff like fetch lands, feel it, mental notes, all that kind of stuff. We've got Goblin Guide, probably the best red one drop for beating the heck down. This card's sweet. I mean, what else can you say? It's seen tons and tons and tons and tons of play. It does say something about this list, though. This guy is only an honorable mention. It's probably the best one drop, red one drop ever printed for beating down, for the most part. So it does say something. So it's really good, but it was only played in it's only played in one deck, which is not even always like a really good deck or even the best deck or just a good deck, just a decent deck, just burn or whatever. So Mog Fanatic, kind of the same thing. Really great back in the day. Hasn't done a lot these days, especially since creatures have gotten better, i.e., gotten more than one toughness for the important ones. So this guy's been not quite as good. Actually, still okay in goblins. I still like to play one or two of them, since you can, it's a good one drop, good to drop off file. Helps you burn out stuff after you gem palm. Good for taking out random dorks, mana dorks, elves, all sorts of random crap. Delvers, of course, kills those pretty easy. That's pretty nice. And then of course the last one we got Goblin Welder. Again, really really strong, really really powerful card. If you remember like those old extended decks during PT New Orleans, Goblin Welder was in a lot of those things. I mean, freaking tinker and thirst for knowledge and discarding like your big fatties and putting them into play, and oh my gosh, this guy did everything. Welded back mind slavers, and I mean, what doesn't this guy do? Unfortunately, this guy needs a lot of help, a lot of pieces surrounding him. He's pretty fragile by himself. He doesn't want to get hit by removal, obviously. You don't really want to get hit by graveyard hate and all sorts of stuff. But by himself, he's extremely powerful. He just needs a lot of help. So last time he was really good was probably like in Vintage with like Control Slaver or something like that. Pretty good there. Um, but yeah, he's good. I could see this guy moving up, of course, even something like Mog Fanatic 2, depending on the way the metagame shakes out. But Goblin Welder, very, very, very strong. I mean, cheating on mana cost, putting stuff into play, that's awesome. But again, he needs a lot of friends, a lot of help. And he just doesn't have that in most formats. So, let's do it. Let's get on to number 10. Okay, is kind of a fake out again because I have three different cards and I couldn't figure out I couldn't figure out which one I wanted. They're all really good. I mean, obviously Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel are a part of a bunch of mana. You can produce a gajillion mana. You can go infinite with this thing. And so that was really important for like the elf combo decks and old extended and modern, and of course legacy, where they are totally insane because they got natural order and Gaia's Cradle, for Christ's sake. That's like totally nutty. um, Gosh, can't even believe it. So what about Wirewood Symbiote? This guy is insane too. This guy's so good when you're just grinding crap out. Think about him and Elvis Visionary. You're just like, I mean, this guy's like just a green powerhouse, insect powerhouse. Look at this guy. I love insects. You gotta love bugs. Bugs are kind of cute in their own way. So yeah, this guy will bounce your Elvish Visionary over and over and over and over, and get you drawing some more cards and stuff. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff. This is a sweet card. These cards aren't higher, of course, because they're a little narrow, but their power level is pretty high. And the Elves deck has seen a ton of play in a ton of different formats. Of course, again, you can play these cards in Commander too. They're pretty good there. With like Azuri as your commander, that's pretty sweet. These are strong cards. These are good cards. Not much more I can say about them. I couldn't figure out. That's the problem with these synergy things. It's a little bit more difficult to figure out like which is the best card from them, I think, because a lot of times the deck's so much worse without just one piece. It's not just a linear thing, like I've said a bunch of times. Like the power level of these synergy decks is just, it's kind of, well, it's not linear. It's like exponential or whatever. Um, all right, so that's number 10. Let's go on to number 9. And now we got Llanowar Elves. Again, another elf from the elf deck. But this guy's seen play since the dawn of Magic, pumping out fatties. And then also being an elf and being good in the elf deck. So this guy is great. Saw a ton of play all over the place, and is in Dominaria and is seeing a ton of play. This guy's. I mean, what more can you say about Llanowar Elves? Even the new art I think is pretty cool. Even though it looks like, was that, it looks like one of the chicks from like D Antwoord. I guess there was only one chick in D Antwoord. I actually don't mind the new art. I think it's kind of cool. You can't go wrong with the old art either. I even like the 7th edition art. I think that's sweet. And then the new art from like 8th edition forward or whatever is pretty cool too. I think it's got good art. This is a cool card. I like it. It's done a lot of work. It's deceptively powerful. Doesn't ask for a lot. My favorite deck with Llanowar Elves is probably Fires, which is sweet because I can play it in pre-modern. I really want to foil that deck out. I already got some of the cards foil. Just want to be slamming these freaking foil like 7th edition Carplucent Forests and foil 7th edition Birds, which are a bajillion dollars, and foil 7th edition Llanowar Elves, which are just as cool. Oh man, that's sweet. I love it. It's a powerful card. Too powerful for bouncing around in standard, so it's doing its little lightning bolt thing where it comes in for a season or two or whatever, and then it'll pop back out. But it's a powerful card. I mean, this is great. Skips you ahead a turn. It can even beat down for one. I mean, what is not to love? This guy's seen tons of play in every format. Yeah, I actually like him a lot in limited two sometimes. Just like getting your big old three drops, dropping your trained Armadons on turn two or whatever. That's kind of cool. Okay, let's go to number 8. Bam! Okay, this isn't just an elf list. Trust me, I don't actually like elves that much, but some of these cards are just so great. So this guy, or I guess gal, has seen about as much play, maybe a little less than Llanowar elves, but it's a little bit stronger, has a lot more synergies. So it gives you an extra mana because you can bounce a forest if you haven't played a land this turn. You can replay it and tap it for mana. It also lets you untap creatures. So in the old survival decks, you could untap like in RGSA in Legacy when it first became a format, Legacy that is. Uh, you could untap like your Goblin Sharpshooters and all sorts of stuff. You could untap your was it Raphaelos? I think that's the guy that taps for a green for every forest you control. That's pretty good with Taiga. Yeah, you can just do all sorts of cool tricks with this chick, and it's seen playing different decks. Obviously, sees play in the elf decks, things like that. Pretty good card, pretty powerful. Again, a little unassuming, but I think it's pretty great. I like it. I think I like it quite a bit. And let's go to number 8 or 7. We're on number 8. Oh boy. Okay, so I don't think most people are surprised to see something like Birds of Paradise on this list. It's better than Llanowar Elves for color fixing, of course, is more ubiquitous. This card is sweet. I mean, there's really not much to say about this guy. Uh, Again, another one of those too powerful for standard cards because, developing around like the green decks can skip their turn and go all the way to the third turn on the second turn. This is a pretty sweet card. I like it. Sees play everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. Um, and it's awesome. Fixes mana. I, I've even the flying part is actually important. I mean, more than a couple times people can strap equipment to it or armadillo cloaks or sacrifice 2 of their fires to kill someone with it. It can attack through an ensnaring bridge. So even stuff like that you can do with Birds of Paradise, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, this card is just ubiquitous and strong, and that is why we have it at number 7. So let's go to number 6. Okay, so this one, I mean, the power level of this card is obviously through the roof. Having a 1 mana 12/12, the drawback is really bad. But when it got its stupid power level errata removed, I think, oh gosh, I can't even remember when, probably around 2007 or something, I think is when they removed all the power level errata. You could stifle it, which is pretty great, or trick bind it, and you have a 1 mana, or well, ostensibly a 2 mana 12/12 with the stifle. Or of course, it was saw play in the Mask Knot decks in Vintage, and those used illusionary mask to get around that wonky drawback and uh, was able to play stuff like Duress and Unmask and stuff, and Dark Ritual, of course, to ramp it out. That was a sweet deck, man. I loved Mass Knot. That was cool. But of course, more recently, seen play in the Dreadstill decks in like Legacy. And in pre-modern, of course, I play Dreadstill as well, which is pretty sweet there. This card does a lot. Does a lot. It's big and it beats down, so it's more of a combo card, obviously, because you can't really play it without something else for the most part. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play this card fairly, i.e., like play it and then sack 12 power worth of crap. Um, I've seen people play it in like to abuse the fact that it's a 1 mana 12/12, and there's all sorts of decks like that can do that. Like full English breakfast with the Vorash shapeshifter, turn it in like to a 12/12 and stuff with trample. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, this card, it can do a lot. So not even when you're casting it, you can do all sorts of things because just having a really big cheap 12/12 doesn't even have to stay in play. Just come into play and trigger all sorts of fun abilities and then die and trigger more abilities. It's even better. So this card's pretty cool. Needs a little bit of help, but wow, it is fun to cast and it beats down so hard and it's got such sweet art. Got that sweet Pete Ventures art. I mean, this is classic Magic cards. I love it. I love it. I don't know why it's in Mirage though. Now that I think about it, like, was there like dreadnoughts in Mirage? I don't remember that in the story. Um, well. Anyways, let's go to number 5. This is a card I didn't even think about until I was thinking about all of these really, really powerful cards and one drops and looking through them. And then, like, it was the first thing that came to mind after I saw Dreadnought. I was like, oh crap, that's right. We have another one mana huge guy. And this guy's even easier to get into play because you just play a bunch of fetch lands, shock lands, Street Wraith, Gitaxian Probe, or, well, not anymore, RIP, and other things. So Dismember, of course, is really good with this guy. That's sweet. This is a pretty sweet deck. Pretty powerful, pretty good and modern and legacy. Does a lot of good stuff. Easy to get this guy into play. Just cycle crap down and sacrifice and shock land your way down to like 7 life or something and play your big old dude. That's cool. This card's pretty sweet. This is really powerful. About the pretty much the easiest giant fatty to get into play because you don't really have to do too much a lot of times. Like, I mean, outside of like something like Street Wraith, but even then, it's like still like free. It reduces the size of your deck, right? So it's basically free outside of, because you get a card off of it. So that's sweet. Death Shadow, really powerful card, really sweet, really cool. I like it. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's a little better than the other cards because it's so strong. And even though it's a little bit more limited than something like Land Royals or Birds of Paradise, I think it's still pretty cool. And of course, I like it in as well. Has the same applications as Phyrexian Dreadnought. Like I like it in like Commander. You can exile it to something like Mimeoplasm or whatever, and make him a big boy, that kind of stuff. So he sees a lot of play there too. I like him. Pretty cool, sweet, interesting card. So let's go to number 4. Bam. I mean, really, when you think of like stupid one drops, I mean, there's not really a card that's stupider than this. I mean, look at that shit-eating grin on that goblin's face. Like he doesn't even know what's going on. This is the dumbest card ever. Like this thing can produce up to 5 mana basically in one hit. Puts a dude into play uncounterably. I mean, makes the whole game revolve around him. Has only gotten better with Aether Vial and Cavern of Souls, so he can't even be countered. I mean, this card is silly. This is an extremely powerful card. It would be probably number 1 if the thing wasn't limited, obviously, to just goblins, right? Like, obviously, this is only ever seen play in goblins, so that's why it's only number 4. Power level is not lacking. This thing is ridiculous. It totally shapes the way the game is played out against a lot of decks. And this is your best turn 1 play against combo decks because then you can race them, put your Siege Gang or War Chief into play, spam a bunch of pile drivers, and then kill them on the 3rd turn while you're wastelanding or something. Like this is the best thing to be doing a lot of the time. Uh, this card is pretty insanely powerful, has seen play, and of course the old Food Chain Goblin decks, and extended until it got banned. And of course was in Legacy. It was notably not banned, and the Goblin deck was really, really powerful for about 4, 5, 6 years. Pretty great. It's still playable now, of course. Yeah, this and a lot of that, of course, is due to Lackey. I mean, this card gives you free wins, and it snowballs out of control pretty fast. If they don't answer it, then they're gonna be pretty upset, pretty sad, pretty soon. So this card is awesome. And of course, like I said, only good in the Goblin decks. I did play it in my Commander decks though, with based on like Krenko and stuff like that. Still pretty cool there. Uh, but yeah, this guy is sweet, and he definitely is really, really strong and definitely shapes the way the game is played out. Definitely makes it kind of a binary thing, like deal with him or die, that kind of thing. But there, of course, are better, stronger, more ubiquitous cards than Goblin Lackey. Let's go ahead and see what those cards are. So let's go to number 3. All right, Delver of Secrets. Really wanted to put this guy up higher. Pretty strong. Obviously, 1 mana, 3/2 blue flyer. About the best opening most of the tempo decks can have in Legacy, or something like Vintage or whatever for that matter. Real good, real good card. You don't have to do much to flip it. I mean, you just need to play a bunch of instants and sorceries, which is, surprise, surprise, a lot of blue decks in basically every format ever. So yeah, this card's dumb. I'm a little annoyed that it got printed because it's like basically a 1 mana 3/2 a lot of the time. A 1 mana 3/2 flyer for that matter. And this is like, why? Like, okay. So, but it's a really powerful card. Has seen play, and of course, um, standard when it was in standard. A little bit in modern, not so much anymore. There's just not a lot of the good tools, the really good cheap cantrips to set it up, that kind of stuff. Don't have a lot of those for that. Obviously very good and Legacy, and then of course sees play in Vintage as well. So it's a sweet card, really powerful. Uh, I don't, yeah, I don't think I'd ever seen it in Commander. Not very good there, but definitely probably the one of the best blue creatures that they printed. Probably the best one. I mean, you could say true name Nemesis, but this guy's basically what you want against pretty much everything, maybe except against like the grindiest, like mid-range decks or something like that, where true name Nemesis would be a little better there. But this guy's good. I mean, you can't go wrong with him. I mean, just creates the most miserable games where you just like first turn Delver, then like Daze, and then Wasteland you, and then Stifle, or Pierce your stuff, or Force it, or then they, turn 1 Delver, or turn 2 Him you, or it's just stupid stuff. You know, all sorts of miserable openings. But this is a pretty good card. But there's actually 2 cards better than it, or at least 2 cards I think are more impactful. So let's see what that one is. Let's go to number 2. That's right, Mother of Runes. Probably the most miserable card ever to ever see play, ever, anywhere, ever of all time. Ever. Yeah, this thing, not very good when it came out, because it was in Ursa's block. So, didn't see a lot of play there, but it's gotten in other formats where it's not insane. Or excuse me, where the format isn't insane, like combos forever and ever. Um, this card is pretty nutty. It just does everything. I mean, obviously it's powerful enough to where they thought it would be kind of nice to have in modern, but they printed a watered down version of it, obviously, where it was a little less oppressive. I mean, this card definitely like gives you 1 turn, and just like turns off all your removal, makes combat like ridiculous. I mean, this thing is just ugh. I mean, at least there's like really absurd white hosers like Dread of Night and Massacre and so on. Otherwise, this would be pretty, well, even more miserable, right? Ugh. Raise your hand if you've gotten your game ruined by this creature. Oh, what? That's all of you? Wow. I was actually surprised because when I looked at EDHREC, this was like one of the top. I think it was like somewhere around the top 50 most played creatures of all time, at least on EDHREC. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. I didn't know that. So I mean, it's everywhere. I think I played it 1 time in one of my EDH decks. But yeah, this thing is great for protecting your guys against single target removal. Um, I mean, yeah, in EDH, and of course in getting multiples of this lady of Miss Mom in constructed formats is even worse. I mean, ugh, can you? Ugh, it's just terrible. Like this thing, like first turn Mom, second turn Thalia, or first turn Mom, second turn Meddling Mage, or just all sorts of stuff. Like first turn Mom, second turn Gaddock Tea. I mean, just creates really, really, really oppressive game states where it's just like build your own lock. And of course they're all like asymmetrical, it's just like, oh, this is just absurd. So yeah, Mother Runes is really, really powerful I mean, makes the game all about her, and if you don't literally deal with her in one turn, whereas something like Goblin Lackey, it's like occasionally you can be like, oh, the only thing I have to put into play is like a Gem Palm Incinerator. So it's like, oh, if they miss, then it doesn't matter, because you can always deal with it later. Whereas if they don't deal with Mom immediately, like all their removals turned off, and the game is just gonna turn to crap for them because you're gonna play some stupid disruptive thing like a Sanctum Prelate, and that's it. It's just gonna be horrible. You're just gonna be sad. So yeah, this card is insanely powerful. I'm glad they didn't put it in Modern Horizons. They just made a fakesy one. But we love Mom. We love our moms. Be sure to call your mom on Mother's Day, although that was a little while ago, a month or so ago, a couple. All right, that's okay. So what what could possibly be better than Mother of Runes? What could it possibly be? Wow, can you believe it is Deathrite Shaman? What a silly card. So not only do we have like insanely powerful, overstated, absolutely ubiquitous, extremely easy to cast. I mean, when was the last time you cast a Birds of Paradise off an Underground Sea? The answer is never, right? Like this is insane. So not only does it do that, it does Graveyard Hate. It gains you extra life, so it helps you race. It finishes off your opponent by draining them for 2. I mean, this card does everything. May not be as powerful, like absurdly broken as some of the other cards on the list, but this thing is just does everything and is everywhere. Easy to cast, goes in a lot of different decks. I mean, there's really not much to say. Is an elf, was in all the elf decks, so you could untap this guy with like your dudes and then drain them more, and then Graveyard Hate, main deck Graveyard Hate. I mean, he had 2 toughness, which was relevant. I mean, what is going on? You can't even play Engineer Plague to kill this guy. So, I mean, yeah, this is kind of a silly card. Is really really good. I liked it. Really powerful. Saw play in pretty much every format that could fill up its graveyard easily. So didn't see very much play in standard. But I played a lot in my commander decks with like Arbor Elf, yeah, and Elvish Mystic and Birds and Llanowar Elf as 1 mana ramp dorks. Um, I mean, pretty much saw play everywhere. This card's really really good. I mean, I don't really need to say too much more about it because it's Deathrite Shaman. I think people, it's probably the best creature ever printed, probably, because it's due to its power level and ubiquity. I think those are the 2 most important metrics for determining something like that. Um, yeah, this card's really really good. And when it was banned, a lot of decks disappeared. Like the food chain decks just weren't that good anymore, being a turn slower, and everything else. Was a little, which is unfortunate. I thought that was a cool deck. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. Who didn't expect this? This is a sweet card. But yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I got a bunch more of these coming up, at least 4 or 5 or whatever more. So that's it. Have a great day, and thanks for stopping by.